After making a video about this HP laptop, here's another one. This is my new main computer which replaces my 2009 MacBook Pro. Actually, it's not even that new, because on May 28th, 2016, it will be exactly 1 year since purchasing this computer. So in this video I'm going to give my impressions and what's good and bad about this computer, which I've had in daily use for a year. It's an HP 15R127NL. This is actually how it looks like from the front. It's a 15.6-inch consumer-grade laptop, so it's not all that special, but it's an improvement from my MacBook Pro, which was 3 times the price of this. On the left side there's a Kensington lock, power jack with a little LED indicator, cooling vent, HDMI port, Ethernet port, USB 3 port, headphone jack, and hard drive and power LEDs. On the front there are the speakers and an SD card slot, which you can't really see, but it's right in the middle. On the right side it has 2 USB 2 ports and a DVD-RW drive. And on the back there's just the battery, which is removable. So that already makes it better than a MacBook. The battery it comes with, which I haven't used a lot because at home I just keep it plugged in without the battery to avoid wearing it out, is an HP OA04, 14.8 volts, 41 watt hour, and 2620 milliamp hour. I think you can buy extended batteries that are thicker and make the laptop a bit at an angle, but it won't be a problem. On the back there's an information sticker, and you can see at the bottom the 2 speakers and the SD card slot. Here's what it looks like opened up. It has a 15.6-inch glossy display at 1366 by 768, which is one of the weaker points of this computer. At the top there's a 720p webcam and the microphone. There's the keyboard with a numeric keypad. It's a chiclet style keyboard. It has keys with very little travel, but coming from a MacBook I can't complain. And after getting used to it, I actually like this keyboard better than the MacBook keyboard. The only con is that it's not backlit. And there's the pretty big touchpad, which isn't as good as the MacBook trackpad. It's not glass, but I've seen non-Apple laptops with worse trackpads. And actually, the left mouse button broke. Just one day when I was using it, I heard a loud snap and the button started not clicking properly anymore. I pulled it a little bit and it came out right away. The right mouse button is fine, but the left one just snapped itself, which kind of sucks. But I put a very small piece of black electrical tape and now it stays in almost perfectly and clicks with no problems. It's not perfect, but at least I can click it. The left mouse button, for some reason, is much louder than the right one. I wish it was the other way around. It only has 2 stickers on it, indicating the Intel Core i7-4510U processor it comes with, and an NVIDIA GeForce 820M graphics card. And by the way, I paid 600 euros for this laptop, which isn't cheap, but for what it does, it wasn't that much. It's definitely a lot cheaper than a MacBook with similar specs. The entire outside of this laptop is made out of plastic. The bezel is matte, which is nice, so it doesn't leave fingerprints all around it like the MacBook does. The rest is glossy, which does leave fingerprints, but it has a very subtle sparkling effect, but I think it looks really cool. If I turn on the flashlight, you can see the sparkling effect where it's glossy. With the flash off, you can't see it. Apart from the processor and the graphics card, this computer came with 8 GB of RAM and a 750 GB 5400 RPM hard drive. And in January 2016, I replaced that hard drive with a 500GB Samsung SSD 850 EVO, which dramatically improved the performance. This computer does not have easy access door to replace components like the hard drive or the RAM. You have to take it apart. I'll put the link of the video I followed to replace the hard drive in the description of this video. This computer came with Windows 8.1 Home Edition, but in my upgrading from Windows 8.1 to Windows 10 video, you could see that I upgraded it. And when I replaced the hard drive, I installed Windows 10 Pro, which I got for free with my university's DreamSpark account. And I also dual booted it with macOS 10.11 El Capitan. So this computer is also a Hackintosh. And now we're gonna boot it up. Maybe I didn't mention that right here is the power button. And check out how fast this computer boots up with an SSD. I turned off the lock screen when it boots up. And after less than 30 seconds it's already at the desktop. And I've already filled it up with programs too. There's only 7 GB left on the Windows partition. I only have this purple background for the video. But anyway, this is Windows 10 running on this computer. The two biggest problems I've had with it. One is the touchpad, which I've already talked about, and another one is the Wi-Fi. As you can see, I'm not connected to the internet. It says Wi-Fi turned off, so naturally I clicked Wi-Fi to turn it on, and it doesn't work. So I try going into network settings. It says Wi-Fi is turned off, so I click the switch. Doesn't turn on. So I tried going into Device Manager and reinstall the driver. At first it didn't work, then I tried again in safe mode and it did work, but after rebooting it stopped working again. The only fix I could find for it was using a Linux bootable USB drive. I ran a utility called rfkill, and it said there was a hardware switch set to the off position, but this computer doesn't have a wireless switch. The only pseudo switch is the F12 key, and for some reason I'm having trouble with the camera focusing. But on Windows it just turns on airplane mode. I tried turning it on and off, but it didn't do anything. It keeps thinking there's a switch, there's a physical switch set to the off position. So it keeps saying that Wi-Fi is turned off and I can't turn it on. I just gave up and bought this USB Wi-Fi adapter. It's a TP-Link TL-WN725N. Costed 10 euros on Amazon. It's very tiny and I just plug it into a USB port. It's not USB 3, so it doesn't make a difference which port I plug it into. Ignore that, that was my iPad's email notification sound. Anyway, after plugging that in, it even has a little green LED. It connects to the internet just fine. Well, that's still broken, but it says Wi-Fi 4, but it works just fine now. If you want to use this computer as a gaming laptop, you shouldn't buy it. But because I just play a few games occasionally, the NVIDIA GeForce 820M graphics card with 2 GB of video RAM does good enough for my needs. I can demonstrate playing Grand Theft Auto 5, which on this computer runs at 720p with most settings turned down at 30 frames per second. Which isn't that great, but it's playable. Definitely much better than my MacBook trying to run Grand Theft Auto 4. This is actually running at its native resolution, which is a little higher than 720p. And if we open Fraps, whoops, we can check out the exact frame rate. Which right now is a little less than 30, but it's good enough for my needs. Damn it, I missed. And I have a mod called Jetpack Vehicle Jetpack, I think, which makes any vehicle fly like this. And also the touchpad doesn't work while you're pressing keys, so you need to use an external mouse. Let me show you the settings. You can pause to see the exact settings. Some can be improved, but most of the settings are low. But actually, if you set this to post effects to high and turn on motion blur, it looks a little bit better. But yeah, these are the settings. They're not high and the game doesn't run perfectly, but it's good enough for me. I don't play games very much. I can't really concentrate right now, so didn't mean to plant a bomb there, but whatever. And apparently he hit his head on the steering wheel or something. What's the button to press to make the bomb blow up? I forgot. Oh, there it is. Don't know what. I just pressed all the keys. But yeah, as you can see, it runs. So quit before the battery is completely discharged. I'll show you the system properties real quick and then we'll boot into macOS 10. I took it for granted, but I should say that this computer does not have a touch screen, so Windows 8 wasn't really good for it. If Windows 10 wasn't free, I would have bought Windows 7 and downgraded to it. And I still really like Windows 7, but because 10 is newer and hasn't caused many issues, I'm keeping it. I should mention a lot of Windows 10 privacy settings that should be turned off, like for example, if you go to network and internet and manage Wi-Fi settings, I turned off connect to recommended open hotspots and connect to shared Wi-Fi networks. In the update and security advanced settings, choose how to get updates. I only allowed updates to be shared on PCs on the local network, so it doesn't constantly use my very crappy internet connection to upload updates to other Windows 10 users in the world. And in privacy, I turned off some settings about sending info to Microsoft. You can download this program called Spybot Anti-Beacon that automates all these steps for you and more. I already ran this once, but anyway, you just click immunize and it will block all the stuff about sending info to Microsoft, which wasn't that big of a deal for me anyway, but there's a way to block it if you don't want that, which I used too. So now we'll reboot into macOS 10. Because this computer came with Windows 8, it has a UEFI motherboard. So on this SSD it's set up with UEFI, and it just started beeping because the battery is low. So I'm gonna turn it off and remove the battery. With the battery removed, there's this gap between the display and the rest of the laptop. This is the power supply that came with it. On this side it has the same plug as the charger for the Asus M50V laptop I showed, which kind of looks like Mickey Mouse if you think about it. And this is the kind of plug that it uses. No MagSafe like the MacBook, of course. And this is the little LED next to the power jack. It's white if the battery is full or there's no battery. It blinks white if the battery is low. And it's orange if the battery is charging. And it blinks orange if you try to turn it on but the battery is too low. So let's boot up this computer again, but this time we'll press F9 to access the boot menu. And instead of Windows Boot Manager, we'll do the Clover EFI bootloader. And here's the option to boot to Mac OS X. I know newer Macs which come with an SSD make you log in immediately right after you press the power button and then start up the operating system, which is kind of cool. This is obviously not like that, but still starts up quite fast. I feel like I've said this too many times, but upgrading this computer to an SSD was the best upgrade I've done to it. So if we go to About This Mac, we can see that it's running the latest version of Mac OS X. It thinks it's a Retina 13-inch late 2013 MacBook Pro. There's the info: 2.59 GHz Intel Core i7, 8 gigs of RAM, and it recognizes the Intel HD graphics 4400, which is the integrated graphics card. This computer has dual graphics. It only uses the NVIDIA ones for games or other heavy applications. This computer runs Mac OS X just fine. Everything works apart from the dedicated graphics, but I'm not gonna use Mac OS X for gaming, of course. I can't set the brightness, it's set at some value in the middle. And also Wi-Fi doesn't work, which is a good thing. I bought that adapter because it has drivers for Mac OS X. There's the display, storage. There you can see the DVD-RW drive. It's an HP GUB0N. It has one free slot on the motherboard, and when I looked it up, I learned that this computer can have up to 16 gigabytes of RAM, but you have to take it apart completely to get to the RAM slots, so I haven't done that yet. Whereas to replace the hard drive, I only had to take it apart halfway. But 8 gigs is fine for the things I do. And yeah, it runs perfectly. To get it to work, I did not use a hacked modified version of Mac OS X. I used the official one, downloaded from the Mac App Store on my real MacBook, and I followed this guide online. I'll put a link to this guide in the description, but I basically followed all the steps to make an install USB drive, and it booted up just fine. So I installed it and on a secondary partition, and there you go. I don't have much else to say. Apart from my MacBook and my 2005 Acer laptop, all the computers I've ever owned were HPs. So I like this computer even for the brand. This computer hasn't been perfect, but it's my best computer yet, and I'm quite happy with it. A lot of people might hate it, but I don't, and it's my computer. Would I recommend this computer to someone else? Well, I don't even know if they still sell it. I bought it in May 2015 and it has some parts from December 2014 or January 2015, so it was already a few months old by the time I bought it. But these specs are great for someone who doesn't need an advanced workstation or a gaming laptop or something. Of course, the hard drive that comes with it is quite slow, but you can run a good amount of programs, and with 8 gigabytes of RAM, even Google Chrome, which is known to be a RAM hog, runs just fine. And the ability to get Hackintosh working on it with relatively little hacks is also a bonus. because I installed macOS 10.11 in October 2015, and every time an update came out, like 10.11.1, 10.11.2, etc., I had to update the Clover EFI bootloader first, but then I was able to install the update just fine, just like on a real Mac. So that's also quite cool. The main defects about it, or where they cut corners to make it cheaper, are the subpar display with only 1366 by 768 resolution, and it's glossy. And also, one thing that doesn't bother me but is worth mentioning is that it doesn't have Bluetooth. So if you want Bluetooth on this computer, you have to buy a little USB adapter similar to the Wi-Fi one I bought. I used this computer really heavily. Touchpad button broke, the Wi-Fi card kinda broke. If I boot up a Linux USB drive and run sudo rfkill unblock all, it starts working again, but every time I reboot I have to do it again, so I just bought that USB adapter. So I think I've run out of things to say about this computer. If you have any questions, just ask in a comment and I'll be glad to answer. If I missed something, I might add it to the description, so be sure to read it. And that's it. Thank you very much for watching. Oh yeah, another thing is that macOS 10 on this computer does not support sleep mode. So it still runs even when the lid is closed.